Welcome to the Tiny Word Project episode 4. Today's guest is April Joise.
In this episode, we dive deep talking about her creative endeavours of being a photographer, her struggles in the current time with the coronavirus and not being able to work during this time, and why and how she is getting through this time.
April's word that she chose for the podcast was gratitude. Stay tuned to see how the word gratitude has shaped her endeavours in becoming a photographer. Enjoy.
April, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
We're fantastic. Yeah, we're doing well. We're just hanging out. Thank you for jumping on the Tiny Word Project podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You're the third guest. And don't let that being the third guest demeanor away from how much we respect you and love you. We would have had you as the first guest, but we had to test out the system before we came to you, you know?
Yeah, sure. I see how this is going.
Everything's running very smoothly. So as we record this, this probably won't come out for another couple of weeks. It's Good Friday.
10th of April.
10th of April. We're pretty deep into this isolation vacation thing.
It's very deep now.
How are you doing with it all?
I'm doing a lot better now than I was. I've been in isolation over 5 weeks now.
Yeah, wow.
The third week was the hardest. I think I went a little insane there.
Yeah, right.
But now it's kind of evened out and like you just find the things that you need to do to kind of get that sense of normality back. But I feel good now.
Yeah, cool. So like for the viewers and of course for even Jacob as well and the listeners, I know what you do for a living, but can you explain what you do for a living?
Yeah, basically I'm a concert and live music event photographer. I also do weddings and fashion, but that's my full-time job. I run my own business, April Joise Studios, which is kind of a full-service creative agency. So it's not just myself. It's got all kinds of other freelance photographers, videographers, animation people, all kinds of artists, and it just gives them opportunity to kind of collaborate and work together.
Very nice.
It's cool.
Very cool.
It's definitely up our alley.
I mean, that's kind of how I met you, Nick, was through videography.
Yeah.
At a music event, and then we ended up working together.
Yes, and that was a ton of fun. I really miss our adventures. Yeah, that was good fun.
I know. I want another one.
We will. We definitely will. So like, of course, being a creative myself and you there, we've been keeping up to date with what the government's been doing, and of course, we don't really want to dive too much into the politics or anything about this with this current situation because it's boring as fuck and everyone can see that shit. And it's all everyone's talking about. But as it's actually something that we can discuss because it can affect a lot of people in a mental way, it can really put people in a lot of depression, especially a creative like yourself and myself, that the whole job is all around socializing and being in crowded places that it's affected your job a lot heavier than another person's job that they can just
because I assume too that I think concerts were one of the first things to really take a real big hit, I suppose, in social events.
Yeah, I guess it's the first one to get hit, and that's probably going to be the last one to recover because it's definitely not essential in any form or seen as essential. But yeah, it's a lot of creatives. The music industry, I think, was the first with all the festivals getting shut down. And then you saw hospitality getting affected too, which was a lot of our fallbacks if we don't do well. So I think a lot of people are getting affected emotionally by this. I've seen a lot of friends kind of go down darker holes. I mean, I had my own little area for 2 weeks where I really wasn't doing too well, and it's still a bit of a roller coaster. It's up and down because you realistically aren't seeing anyone.
Yeah.
But, it's how you deal with it, with anything in life. And we're very lucky with the situation that we are in as well, to have the privilege to self-isolate and still, have food and a roof over our head.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I suppose too, with like the industry that you're in, a lot of people are sort of barely making it by as well, and they can't really afford to not be playing concerts or doing gigs or taking photos or any of that sort of thing. So I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that quite well that are probably not doing too well, or this has had like a really big impact on them.
Yeah, definitely. I know people that have had to move back home, and unfortunately that might be a potential for myself if I don't keep continuing to find things to do in the time off. You've got to be really smart about it, in terms of like, I've gone without income now for just about 2.5 months, because anyone that owed me money from the month and a half before is from the music industry, so they're unable to pay myself. There's a lot of creative ways. Like we've been fortunate to have, as photographers, platforms like selling prints. There's been people doing podcasts and video. I'm doing some video editing and music video editing now.
That's cool.
Which will help kind of bring some income in. But the harsh reality is if we don't keep our head above water, there's people out there that might not be as fortunate. They might not have a home to return to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it's really a day by day thing, and it's all scary, and we're all in the same boat. So it is hard to complain or talk about it in some ways, because it has affected us so much.
Yeah, and I guess there's a lot of pros and cons to this current situation as well. Like as bad as it is, and the cons, of course, people are dying, getting sick, and people losing their jobs. It's definitely put, like, from listening to what you're doing and taking the initiative to adapt and innovate with the current situation is really motivating, even for ourselves, and seeing that, because it's like you're still willing to fight, like even current with everything's going on, still willing to fight to keep your head above board, like instead of just going like, okay, screw it, like I'm just going to wait till the government does this or this does that.
It's very easy to just go, oh well, too bad. It's easier to just give in and to say, look, well, I'll just write it out and see what happens. It's hard to have that fight, especially when it is quite difficult to stay afloat anyway. Have you found that people have been quite supportive of, I'm not sure if you yourself are doing prints or anything, but have you found that people are still being quite supportive of that sort of thing? Because I've noticed a lot of people I know who are tattooists and that sort of thing, they've been selling prints. And it seems like a lot of people are being quite supportive because they know that it's such a hard time. Have you found that people have been quite supportive of the new sort of innovations people have had to do?
Yeah, it's been really good, really heartwarming for me to see how much support was actually out there. I don't know, as a creative, you always kind of go through this circle of doubting yourself. Am I like doing well enough? Have I got enough traction and that kind of stuff? So that was a bit of a worry releasing prints and not getting anything back. But I've actually had so many supporters, friends and family that when they can have purchased prints, which has been a massive help to me. It's kept me busy. It's kept my mind active. There was a period where I think everyone was getting hit by it a little bit, so you kind of got forgotten about, but then it seems to kind of come back around. I mean, and there's a part that feels bad that, not everyone's in a situation they may want to support and they don't have the financial to help support us, but it means the world just to have that connection over social media. Even like I've made a lot of friends from this period of time, just talking to them about their situation, and that's kind of support means just as much as buying a print to me. It's been really nice to see that, and it's surprising to me as well, like having so much support from like my hometown, the Central Coast, and all the things that are coming out of there creatively as well. It's really heartwarming to have that.
Yeah, it's really cool to see people, as going back to that innovation thing, people coming out of the dark that are surprisingly really creative, and they're doing things that are completely different, which is really cool, and it challenges us, and it challenges other people to keep competing, or like competing in a healthy way, but competing and innovating to then invent something new, or create, or make something even better.
It's so exciting seeing all these people that are coming out and being creative that you didn't know were such good artists, like drawings, and other people are getting into photography, which I love seeing what they're coming out and creating. It's definitely giving you that spare time that you always kind of wanted to focus on these little artworks that like I've gotten back into my painting, which is something that I've always loved to do, but just haven't had the time to do. Looking into all other kinds of things. I'm learning how to play electric guitar.
Oh, so cool. So cool.
I love that that's one thing about it, is being fortunate enough to have the time to learn a new skill, or kind of get creative and get outside of the box, like read the books that you wanted to read. I don't know. I know a lot of people are like workaholics like myself, especially when you're in the creative industry. You kind of can't put it down even when you're home. And you don't realize how much that your daytime creative job consumes your whole life, and you forget those fun things that you just love doing. So it's really nice to have that kind of fire stoked for the other creative stuff.
I listened to something very interesting the other day. Someone was saying that he looked back on historically when we've had things that are similar, and he said that as a result of people being in these situations, some of the best and most renowned artworks and movies and books and that sort of thing have come as a result of that. So it'd be really interesting to see. I mean, we're already sort of in those early stages still, but it'd be interesting to see a few months down the track or a year down the track, all of those things that start to come out as a result of people having all of that time to themselves and being able to create.
A lot of self-discovery in that time. That is going to, formulate a lot of artwork. And I know a music photographer that is an amazing music photographer, but not many people know how good he is at portrait photography, because they're two completely different ends at times of photography and styles and techniques and stuff. And he is coming out with the most beautiful artworks, and not just like stock standard, pretty fashion portraits. He's really getting creative, and it's amazing to hear musicians coming out with songs that are, even at the beginning, I know like Ali Barter and her partner from Holy Holy came out with music, Oscar Dawson, like a fun little song.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of stoked the fire for other musicians to really get deep. And, as the time goes on, 3 months, it's not a short time. If you're completely isolated like how I am, there's a lot of time for self-discovery.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
A lot of time to look inside and create something from that. And there's going to be some amazing artworks that come out of this.
Yeah, definitely.
And artists that we didn't even know.
100%, yeah.
Just a bit of an origin story, and of course we are keeping these nice and quick and informative. Let's jump back to when you started photography. How old were you when you started being a photographer?
Well, I would say when I was a child, I got into it.
Yeah.
But professionally, it was at the end of 2013.
End of 2013. Yeah. So how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 25.
25, yeah. Yeah, cool.
I was 18 when I started, basically.
And you just went, so like with photography, when you started, were you running like a different job as well? Like, of course, you were doing like a part-time job and then photographing on the side, or?
Yeah. I think, my first photography job was actually, it was a full-time job, but it was horrible. It was doing like shopping center photos of kids.
Okay, yeah.
For those schools, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I was like, yeah, I'm going to travel Australia. So that was the first one. That lasted about 4 months. I broke down many times in that job. It was horrible. Do not recommend to anyone. But then I went into hospitality and would work part-time hospitality, part-time photography, continued doing that until about, I think it was 2 years ago on Monday, I've been working full-time for myself.
Yeah, wow.
And just
That's
before
sick.
that, I was working full-time for just under a year for a family portrait studio. So realistically, I've only been doing this for 3 years full-time.
Yeah.
But have always had my foot in some door with it, whether it be
Yeah.
wedding photography, which I did start in 2013 as well,
Yeah.
or fashion, which is like editorial and things like that.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's good. And like, of course, they're very cliche questions to ask, but very important questions to ask, because it's really interesting to see how people started and where they started. And especially in this time, if people are looking to become a photographer or in the creative industry, or becoming a videographer or whatever it is, it's very interesting to see how people started out. Like, it wasn't always it's like when some people are like, oh, I'm going to become a wedding photographer, but it's like, they've never taken a photo before, but they want to get to the wedding photography. It's like, yeah, that's your end goal, but you've got to start somewhere else. You've got to.
Oh yeah, you've definitely got to cut down your expectations when you first start. Like, you want to start up here, just cut a few inches off of that and get really be realistic with those kind of industries.
Yeah, I think too, a lot of people probably find it quite difficult to make that leap to begin with. I think that a lot of people definitely have. Whether it be photography or videography or another creative outlet that's their main passion, but they think it's almost too difficult to make that full-time jump into that. Did you find it quite difficult to hang up the other side of the income and just go 100% into photography, or was it quite an easy transition?
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge jump.
Yeah.
It's a scary one, because you're relying on yourself to go out and get your own work. And also, like, I tried it when I was a lot younger and way less inexperienced. I was very cocky. My ego was huge. I thought, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'll just go out and run my own photography business. And then quickly realized there's so much that I didn't know. So I think it's very important to really hone your skills in first and be 100% confident in that before you go out and do it. There's a lot of networking to be done and relationships to be made in the creative industry, and that's a lot of how you get your work. Is word of mouth. Who you know, you can spend thousands of dollars on marketing, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have someone in your corner saying, "That's a great photographer," or "That's a great creative. Go to that." It's how you get most of your work.
It's massive.
So relationships are made over years.
Yeah, and that word of mouth is just incredible. Like, in talking from personal experiences, even with wedding stuff, as some people may know, I've filmed weddings here and there. I've gotten weddings from, I haven't even really advertised it, and I've gotten like 6 or 7 weddings this year just off word of mouth alone.
Yeah,
which is crazy. So like,
that's 100% how I get all my weddings too. It's all word of mouth. I don't advertise at all. My wedding Instagram, my wedding page on Facebook, and that section of my website is very basic, because I'd rather just go off the clients that I get from word of mouth. And you can spend all your money doing that, but it's a kind of a waste of time.
Definitely. Yeah. So, anything you would like to add? Extract from April here?
I think that I find it quite interesting, just looking through your Instagram page. A lot of your photos are obviously on there anyway, like concert photography and that sort of thing. And it seems like, to me, it seems like that is, and it could just be because that's all I'm seeing, but it seems like that is a big part of your work. Is that what you find the most interesting, or is that just something that you fell into by chance, or how did that all come to be?
No, you can't fall into music photography. That is definitely not something that you have to work your ass off 24 hours a day, barely any sleep.
I can vouch for that. I can vouch that April is one of the hardest working humans. It puts me to shame. that. Sorry to cut you off there, but I got to give you some props.
No,
because,
no.
I remember, I'll tell you this one story when we did film a wedding. When did we film? Was it a Friday? I think it was a Friday.
I think so. It was a Friday daytime wedding.
This is a whole weekend, right? So you had 2 more weddings that weekend or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That was wedding season.
Yeah, we had the Friday. You had the Friday wedding, then you shot bands on Friday night, and then I think you came back.
Yeah, and a nightclub.
and a nightclub, and then you shot a wedding on the Saturday, and then you shot stuff like Saturday night, like more bands or like nightclub, and then on Sunday evening you had another wedding up in the Hunter Valley.
Crazy.
And it was like crazy. So props.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. I don't recommend booking yourself as much as I book myself in. I'm a bit like, just take everything you can get as much experience as you can, push it as far as you can. And I'm always thinking about like who I can network with. I think that's the only way like I've made it in music photography at this point, because I haven't been doing it for a long time. I know most music photographers out there have been doing it for like 5 years. I've been doing it for 18 months, 2 years realistically as a job. But yeah, I was very fortunate. I moved to Sydney from the Central Coast to start music photography. And my main goal was to go for Oxford Art Factory. Basically called them up, asked them for a job, went in on that week, and I've been working there ever since.
Wow.
And then from that have created relationships with artists when you get the chance to see them. And then just being in the scene, being out and about, just being places makes you meet people that are in the music industry. So you create relationships. I mean, I don't think there's any bands that I work with that I don't consider a friend or, someone that I would hang out with. It's a lot of hard work, being professional and creating relationships. But yeah, you've really got to be on the ball.
Definitely, yeah. So ultimately, end goal, is there anywhere in particular, and it could be professionally or personal life or whatever, is there anywhere that you're aiming for personally or with photography or anything, or is it sort of just like working and seeing where everything goes?
No, I have big goals. My uncle always told me if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Definitely.
Which is basically like my motto with everything. I want to have like my own studio, my own music venue space. I want to have this creative hub of young creatives, giving them opportunities, because that was one thing for me is like I might have very strong drive from my life experiences and what I've been through, but it's very, very hard out there to get opportunities in the creative industry. So I'm very passionate about giving people the chance to grow, learn, explore. It's also very hard to learn in any creative industry how to do things unless you know someone already. So yeah, that's kind of where I want to end up having things, is an art gallery, music venue, creative hub space with potentially a learning center connected to it for artists.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That's sick. That's really, really cool. We're definitely about that. That's what we really want to create with the couple of businesses that we have here now. And
give people an opportunity to flourish.
Yeah, a little bit that way with having so many things connected together.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of all in the one place. Like you've got the private studio.
Yeah.
You guys are obviously together. You're into other forms of art, which is really good.
Yeah. Anyway, we may leave you with this. We're starting a bit of a tradition, and it's a whole kind of theme, everything in a nutshell. What we like to do with the Tiny Word Project at the end of the podcast is we like to ask you, what is one small word that can have a big impact on someone's life, inspires them, inspires you, and why?
Gratitude, I think, is probably, one of the biggest ones. Why? I don't know. I practice gratitude every day, and it makes a huge difference to my mental health. So not only your mental health, but when you practice gratitude, it brings up other underlying things that, like, what are your values in life and how you look at things, what are your morals, and then being grateful for the people and the things around you. I think that really is a beautiful energy to be emitting out there. It's just something that creates another pathway of love from you to other people, and keeping open hearts is important in today.
Definitely.
So, yeah,
That's
gratitude.
amazing. You're amazing. We love you. Thank you for jumping
Love
on the
you
Tiny
too.
Word Project podcast. We're having fun. We're actually I'm feeling a bit more, you're getting to get comfy.
Excited.
Getting excited,
Yeah.
getting ready for it.
Yeah, it's so good. So thank you, and we'll speak to you very
Thanks for having
soon.
me on. It's really good to see you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.